Kevin Roth here of RotoGrinders, and today we're going to talk about the RG Discord. If you're not a member, you should be. It is a fantastic community and resource that RotoGrinders provides, and it's easy to join as well. All you have to do is click the Discord icon on RotoGrinders or go to rotogrinders.com/discord. From there, you'll either sign up if you're new to RG, or if you're already a member, just click the link at the top to go to the sign-in page. Once you've logged into your RG account, you can be taken to Discord to log in there. Once you've connected those accounts, you won't have to leave the server. You can freely close out and reopen Discord without ever having to reconnect. The idea of Discord might be a little bit daunting to you, but it's actually pretty simple to navigate. Whether you're on mobile or desktop, the far left side will show you the Discord servers that you've already joined. Then next to that, you'll see the channels within that Discord. We have both free channels like Chiefs Prop Shop and our daily sport channels, and we also have premium channels like Blender's Game Theory or the Crunch Time channels. Premium members can see the difference between the free and premium channels by looking for a padlock icon next to the premium channel names. We also have a few pointers for new and experienced users alike. If you're having trouble finding a channel, make sure that you haven't collapsed the section that the channel is in. Collapsing a channel will only allow it to appear when there are unread messages in that channel. Also, we find that using the actual Discord program works better than opening it in a browser like Safari or Chrome. Lastly, if you're having trouble with one of our tools, your RotoGrinders account, or any other technical needs, you can hop in our feedback and help section of channels to get help from one of our wonderful support and moderation team members. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter @RotoGrinders or email support@rotogrinders.com. See you in Discord. Kevin Roth here.
Good morning. Good morning, Grinders. We went a little downhill there. Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender HD, if you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, March 9th. Still got NBA, right? Still got a 12-game slate today. Oh my God, it's gonna be total pain in the ass. We got what? 2 games at 7, 1 game at 7:30, 4 games at 8, 2 at 8:30, 2 at 10, and 1 at 10:30. 12-game slate. Our injured list has 24 players on it, which includes LeBron and Ingram and Vooch and Russell and Wood and Suggs and Vanderbilt and Van Vliet and Bones Highland and Beverly and Brunson, Mitchell Robinson, Devin Booker's questionable, Anthony Simons, Anthony Edwards, Will Barton, Jeremy Lamb. Who knows what's going to happen? Is there even a point in talking about this today? By the time we get to the end, some of these people will be in. Half of these people will be out. Value will open up. Who knows? I mean, if we're going to get the news. Look, the Boston-Charlotte game has no injury designated players on it, and that's the first game, right? So we're not going to get Minnesota news. We're going to LeBron probably ends up playing. When is the Lakers playing? The Lakers are playing at 8. Chicago's playing at 7. Okay, so that's for Vooch. And Houston is playing at 8. So you're not going to know about that. Maybe Fred VanVleet, Toronto. When are they playing? They're playing at 8:30, and that's against the Spurs. And of course, with the Spurs, you never know what's going to happen with them. This is going to be a mess. This is going to be an absolute Dallas. When is Dallas playing? 8:30. Great. I mean, welcome. You're going to be using the late swap tool today. Okay, you're going to be using this rebuild late swap function in Lineup HQ, which you could get with the RotoGrinders premium membership. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. But we're going to talk about some stuff today, I guess. Looking in the YouTube chat, always answer your questions, right? Sometimes I get a little ticked off if I see names that I recognize answering questions that I've answered like 700 times before. But most of the time, I try to help you guys out. So we need to pick up the slack in the YouTube chat. Suki Singh, as always, as most of the time, in as early as possible with the good morning. Ryan Johnson, Matt Mears, Daniel Hutchings, Shannon Lambert, Ryan Johnson, and they're a bunch of them are in there. Devin's here back again, overseeing everything. Give a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Give me those tummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Or if you're not new, if you haven't subscribed, right? And hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Remember, go over the YouTube scores and odds page, right? We got a new channel, scores and odds channel. Hopefully they'll come up with at least some type of URL, some type of forwarding URL, something, because I have to, in order to give you the URL, I'd have to give you the nuclear launch codes to Belarus or something in order to recite that URL. But go to YouTube, search for scores and odds, and subscribe to that channel, and we'd have a bunch of betting content up there. Grant's doing his live lock show at 2:00 in the afternoons Eastern time from Monday through Friday over there. And there's going to be plenty of new content over there. Also, looking at the schedule for both the premium members as well as the free stuff, we're going to have some college basketball stuff, some MMA stuff for premium members. We're going to be NHL. We have NHL Grinders live now, right? So if you're playing hockey, I think twice a week during the weekdays, there's in 3:00 in the afternoon, we're gonna have any. If you're gonna play hockey, we got Grinders live for hockey. So definitely subscribe to the channel, both channels. Check everything out at rotogrinders.com. We don't got a forum anymore. I know that's where I used to read all the cool stuff. I lurked in the forums a lot on RotoGrinders when I first started in 2015. But we got a Discord now, and it's pretty popular Discord. We got some free channels. Now, I'm not saying that there's that much participation in the free channels, but the premium stuff every day, like NHL channel, the NBA channel, the MMA, soccer, when Saturday mornings for EPL or Champions League on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's pretty active. So sign up for RotoGrinders Premium and you get access to the Discord. And I have my own channel there, Blenders Game Theory, and it's not heavily active, but I answer the same type of questions that I answer here. I answer in there. So if you're struggling with game theory, with DFS strategy, and there's also tons of other smart people in that channel that have worthwhile discussions in there, and I also do group coaching calls in there. So like we get on Zoom, we have it's like private coaching. People have always asked me. I've asked for 2 years. Do you do private coaching? And it's like I feel like anything that I tell you privately, I say on this show, I do publicly. I do a podcast. It's like, I don't feel like, why am I taking your money? You could buy my course, right? Theoryofdfs.com. But people like individualized support. So as part of your RotoGrinders premium membership, and if you're in that Blenders Game Theory channel, about once a week, I do private coaching in a group setting. So it's like a small group on Zoom. And people go one at a time. They share their screens. We talk about whatever you want to talk about. Go over your play and everything. Our next Zoom call is tomorrow night at 8:00 Eastern. So if you sign up for premium and join that channel, you'll have access to that as well. And let's see, going through the YouTube chat. Let's see, anything going on in there? I'm usually a 10-man 50-50 player. Today I entered a 500-person field. How should I change my strategy? For cash games, I mean, for a double up, nothing. I mean, really, there's a little bit of nuance there. Depending on the fit, like truthfully, the 10-man 50-50s are typically not the best 50-50s. Not the softest. I don't want to use terms like best and worst. Typically, if you're playing what in DFS we'd consider cash games, it's a poker terminology. So that double ups, head to heads, triple ups, I guess, 3-mans, 5-mans, stuff, stuff like that, where it's not a progressive payout curve for when where you place and where you win money. typically you want more people in your double ups because you're more likely to get weaker opponents. So if you're playing 10-man 50-50s, for instance, on FanDuel, well, I don't know if FanDuel doesn't do 10-man. I think they do 20-mans. But let's say there's 20-man 50-50s on FanDuel. Like they have 20-mans, they have 50-mans, they have 100-man 50-50s, depending at the price point. Now, in a 20-man 50-50, it's quite possible that, you know, the 15 to 20 sharpest players in the lobby are playing every contest, right? So they're in everything. So if you're going to play a 20-man 50-50 on FanDuel, you go into that entrance tab, who's in there, you're more likely to see, you know, out of your 20 opponents, you may know 16, 17, 18, may look and it's like, oh, it's all the sharpest players that are rarely going to make mistakes, right? You're probably going to be a 2v2 between most of the field. It's going to come down to, you know, this center and that small forward versus and everyone else has the same 7 other players type of thing. Now, when you play 100-man 50-50, now those 16 to 20 sharp players only represent like 20% of the field. So you're more likely to get random, less good players, right? Weaker players that may make more mistakes. So like I could go into a 50-50 on FanDuel. For instance, I mean, let me take a look. Okay, because I played yesterday on FanDuel. I mean, I didn't win money, I lost money. Lost money. Jackson Hayes just died. What happened to him yesterday? It's not like Kevin Looney did any better. I was deciding between Hayes and Looney for my last spot on FanDuel. And I decided, since I was playing Herbert Jones anyway, and I was playing Pelicans, I was like, just give me all the points. It wouldn't matter. Looney only had like 18 points or something on FanDuel anyway. Let's go into my history. Yeah, Cole Anthony got injured. Durant decided not to play. Let's see. Can I go into like a 50-50? Okay, so I'm just going to, I mean, I'm going to go into places. Let's see. Where do I find this? Typically, I don't look through my history on FanDuel much. So can I find like 100-man 50-50? Okay, this is from okay. Now I'm finding it. Okay, here we go. Right, I still want some head-to-heads, right? Even like, you know, $50 head-to-heads or whatever, that's fine, right? So I'm going through. So let's say I'm going $1, $5, 50-50. So let's go into a $2 50-50 with 100 players in it. Okay, so this is yesterday on FanDuel. Okay, my lineup, 295.9. And as you can see here, I had Cole Anthony, Ball, Payne, McCollum, Durant, Miles Bridges, Jackson Hayes, Herbert Jones, and Andre Drummond. It's not a horrible lineup, but yeah, when Kevin Durant only puts up 23 and Giannis puts up 68, that's going to be a problem. But you can see here, look at the ownership of my lineup. I mean, you're going to be playing the chalk. I mean, that's the whole point. So you go through here, and like I'm going to go through. Here's all the entries. I can't scroll, so I have to go next. So I'm gonna look for like someone I recognize. Right, I recognize some of these guys, but I'm just saying like someone like McLovin. Right, I go through some stuff over here. Let's see, 318. Let's see. And I can't find because this is a $2 double up, and someone like McLovin is restricted from this contest. I'm not restricted on FanDuel yet, because over the past 6.5 years, I played 98+% of my volume on DraftKings. So that's why I'm taking advantage of the low stakes. But like we go here, here's a 259 train, right? Came in 76th, right? So that was a popular lineup. This was a popular lineup build. Ball, Hampton, Payne, McCollum, Bridges, Durant, Hayes, Herbert Jones, and Jonas Valanciunas. So really, that really killed this type of lineups. If you played Jonas on FanDuel over Drummond, at much cheaper, obviously. But if we go down to the bottom, like if we go like here, Ball Hog, here's 233. I mean, if you take a look at this lineup on FanDuel, this was someone's cash lineup. And I apologize if Ball Hogs is watching or something. I'm going to make fun of him. but this was not a very good cash line, right? Outside of, I mean, if you just take a look at the ownership, Michael Bridges and Cole Anthony, sure, right? But I mean, look at all this: Montrezl Harrell, Isaiah Jackson, Darius Baisley. Like what? Like this is a very bad FanDuel cash line, regardless if it did well or not. This is what I want to see in my contests. I go to the next one. Here's a 246 lineup: Seth Curry, Marcus Morris, Jaren Jackson. I mean, yeah, Durant, Bridges, Miles Bridges, Klay Thompson, but like this is a poor lineup also. You go to the net, like low end over here. This actually wasn't that bad of a line in comparison. And then we look at the top. Let's say we go to the top. Right. So on the 396.10, this wasn't that bad of a lineup, okay? Because it had Nora, Wiggins, Garland. I don't consider this that bad of a lineup at all because it's still contained. These were viable parts of your FanDuel cash pool, right? So I take a look at this and I go, okay, right? Yeah, no McCollum, no, Durant was 73% owned in this. Right, still play Drummond in there, so this isn't that bad. So how about here? 382. So here's a normal lineup, right? Mobley, Looney, Hampton. I mean, these are normal things. Right. So you just look through, and you're more likely in 100-man double up to find like lineups that project poorly. That they're giving up 10, 15 points in projection. This isn't that bad either. This contest actually had pretty decent competition. Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, like I said, Kevin Love didn't do much. But you're more likely with 100 people in it to find people that make big mistakes. And enough so that it may even cover the rake. So out of the 100 opponents, like typically the rake for these are like 12% or so, 11%, something like that. If you could find 10 to 15 opponents who are making markedly worse lineups from a projection standpoint, the rake is kind of paid for already. Now, if you're playing a 10-man 50-50, it's most likely that 9 of the sharpest players in the lobby are already in that contest. That those 9 sharpest players, 9 out of 100 is different than 9 out of 10. So to me, that's the difference between playing small field double ups, 50-50s, and large field stuff. So and depending on the amount of entries, like the multi-entry ones, there's 2,000 entrants, but you could enter up to 20 times. Well, typically the sharper players are entering 20 of the same lineup again. So you really, if you're looking to increase your ROI, you're more likely, not guaranteed, more likely to find weaker fields the larger the double up or 50-50 is, and single entry, right? So the good players, the best players in the lobby don't make up the larger portion of the contest. So that would be the difference, right? So truthfully, you should probably be looking out for the larger stuff. And if you're going to play 10-man 50-50s, be very discerning on which ones you play. Meaning that you, like everyone, you look at the entrance and you memorize names, names that you see over and over again. If you look through and you go in a 10-man 50-50, if you could find 2 players in it, 2 that you're like, I don't recognize these people, 2 of them, that may be good enough. But I mean, it doesn't mean they play badly, but the fact that you don't recognize who they are, they're not the sharpest players in the lobby. So if you could find 2, 1, any, that would be better than just blindly playing 10-man 50-50s with the sharpest players in the lobby. This happens a lot in the smaller niche sports, like soccer. Like I play cash games in soccer, and I can tell you that it's probably the sharpest lobby on DraftKings. And I'll play an 11-man double up, and it'll be 10 out of 11. And it's me and the 9 best players in the lobby also. Like we're all just looking for like one schmuck, two schmucks to enter some of these contests, and the rake is paid for. But there isn't as much volume that you can get in soccer. So a lot of times I'm entering everything in the lobby and just hoping for the best. Hopefully a couple of schmucks join. Right? You look through the 3-man lobby. Right? You look through the 3-man lobby and you look for can I find someone that I don't recognize? I've been playing soccer DFS for 6.5 years. That's what I started with. So I'm looking through head-to-heads or whatever, and whatever action I could get, that's a week, that's what I go after. Which means on some slates, I will have much less volume than on other slates. There are some soccer slates, some EPL slates on a Saturday that I only have like $700 in action. There are some slates that I have 2,000 in action, right? Depending on who I find in the lobby. Sometimes I go and I see some person I never seen before is posting a $530 head-to-head. Well, I'm taking that. And then there are some slates where the head-to-head lobby is bare, nothing. Everyone is. Why am I going to trade rake with other sharp players in the lobby, right? So I mean, you use your head-to-head blocks on DraftKings, and then I'm not going to enter 3-mans with Saramek and Redcoat just for the sake of getting extra volume. Like it makes no financial sense. The edge between us is so small that DraftKings will end up with the money. We played this slate 1,000 times. All 3 of us would be losers, right? So I'm going through. Can I? Sometimes you go through a $109 3-man. It's 2 out of 3. You go, okay, there's Saramek, and then there's someone I've never heard of. Okay, as long as someone I've never seen before is in there, okay, I'll play that 3-man. I'll play that 3-man. Or, I mean, also there are people that I've seen before that I know aren't very good players, right? So sometimes I look for those guys also that may play high stakes, and I look at their lineups and I go, yeah. Whenever they decide to play a slate, I'm gonna try to snag a head-to-head or a 3-man or something with them in it. But that's what you should be doing, especially with the smaller bankroll. The smaller the bankroll that you have, the more contest selection will matter. So if you're going to be playing $100 of volume on one lineup for like cash games or something, like $100, you could find the softest action that you want for $100, definitely. Now, if you're looking to play $5,000 worth of volume, you're not going to find all 5,000 against the softest people. It's just not. It's rarely going to happen. Maybe 8 years ago, maybe something like that. But for $100, $300, but probably up to $500, right? You could, in a major sport like NBA or MLB or NFL, definitely NFL. So you should be spending your time on finding the softest competition, and that will make the biggest effect on your ROI. I say that in the course, right? If you go get the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, 15-hour audio DFS masterclass at theoryofdfs.com. You can see the table of contents here, right? I explain in one of the chapters, I think in maybe not chapter 2, chapter 1, chapter 2, in the very beginning, that the biggest effect on your profitability in DFS is the strength of your opponents. It's very similar to an axiom in poker. You'll make more money off of the mistakes of your opponents than the brilliance of your own play. Right? So like if I'm going to be playing a one-on-one basketball game with LeBron James, like I'm going to lose, right? But if I play a one-on-one basketball game with a 4-year-old that's in a wheelchair, it's at least I'm a favorite in that game. At least in that game, I may actually lose some games against the 4-year-old in a wheelchair. I may, but I'm probably going to be the favorite, right? So who do I want to play? Well, if we're playing for $50 a game, I want to play the paralyzed 4-year-old in the wheelchair that I'm probably a 9-1 favorite, right? But maybe not more than that.
What
right?
I'm hearing
I'll
is
have to hit some free throws.
What
right?
I'm hearing
Hopefully
is
I'll get fouled.
Blender's got game, basically, is what we're hearing.
Right. So it doesn't matter how good you are. You just have to find people that are worse than you. Now, obviously, the better that you get at DFS, more of the field is worse than you, right? So the two things that you can do to increase your profitability in DFS, or go from a losing player to a winning player, an unprofitable player to a profitable player, is do one of two things, or both. In a utopian world, both. Either get better yourself or find weaker opponents. And the easier thing to do is to find weaker opponents. So on some slates, maybe you don't find that many. You can't find that many. Okay, so you have less action. So a lot of people think in terms of bankroll size, like a percentage. Oh, I'm going to play 3% of my bankroll per slate. Like, truthfully, that should be a baseline. Like, you go, okay, I'm going to play 3%. You know, I have a $10,000 bankroll, and I'm going to play $300, 3% of my bankroll per slate. Let's say you're playing like cash games or something. You're playing one lineup for 3%, right? That should, to me, that's a baseline. If you find weaker opponents on a specific slate, and you're like, oh, there's an edge here and there's an edge there, maybe you're playing 5% on that slate. And maybe on another, the very next day, you're going through the head-to-head lobbies, you're going through, you know, looking at the 3-mans, and you really, like, you can't find any schmucks, right? You can't find any weak double ups, weak head-to-head lobby, maybe you're only playing $120 of equity on that slate. You're playing 1.2% of your bankroll on that slate. And then the next slate, you find, you know, oh, there's $209 head-to-heads that some no badgers there. Okay, well, there you go. Right? You got, that's $218. And maybe on that slate, you're playing 6% on that slate because you found weaker stuff. That's what you should be gauging it by, not just have this just straight number of like, I'm going to play X% no matter what. And also it depends on your strengths as a player. Sure, some people are very good at smaller slates. Some people are much better at larger slates, different sports, right? I play a larger percentage of my bankroll for NFL because NFL compared to other sports are softer fields, typically in the beginning of the season, right? You get a lot of new money, new dead money, easy money. You know, you look at their head, they're picking up $20, $50 head-to-heads, and you take a look at their lineups and you go, I don't even know how you came about this lineup, right? Like, you think that it's almost straightforward. Like, oh, you can play this guy, and it's going to be like a 2v2 against most sharp players. And you take a look at their lineup, and no, you're not even sharing a single player. Like, how did this person even come on? And then a lot of time, you know, you can end up being a 3-1, 4-1 favorite against that person, right? You want to find that action. Okay, so maybe football, NFL main slates on Sundays, you have a larger percentage. And maybe for showdown, you don't, because the edge in showdown may be much smaller. Maybe you're very good in those types of slates, right? That's that maybe you're good at GPP slates where duplication is an issue. There you go. Knowing how to get unique smartly. That may be a strength of yours. So you're going to dedicate more percentage of your bankroll towards those slates. When I play soccer, like, I'll take head-to-heads up to $530. Some $1,000. I rarely find $1,000 head-to-heads with people that I want to play, but I would in EPL soccer. I'll do that, no problem. But in baseball, I don't. Right? I really don't play cash games in baseball. It's a very high variance, and I don't see how you could be that dramatically of an underdog in a head-to-head situation. Dramatically enough, maybe 60-40 at best is how much of a favorite you could be over any lineup, essentially. Assuming that you fill out a $50K in salary, that you fill out everything and everyone's playing. You didn't roster 3 guys from a game that got ringed out, right? As long as you have active players in your lineup. It's very hard to be more than a 40% underdog in MLB, but you could be more than a 40% underdog in a lot of other sports. NBA, definitely. Right? NFL, definitely. Soccer, definitely. So I'm looking for those people, and I'm divvying up my action based on that, based on the edge that I perceive that I have on a slate. Let's see. We're just going to answer questions today. Is there a point Is there a point going? It's a 12-game slate today. There's nothing. And what did we go over yesterday? Cameron Payne did well. Okay, the Suns did well. You got Suns, you did well. Kevin Durant decided to just stay on the court. Yeah, Bruce Brown did everything, apparently, yesterday for the Nets. And the Pelicans front court, I have no idea what happened there, right? They ended up getting blown out, right? But it's like Hayes got no points and Joval got no points. And like, well, who played? And then I looked through the NBA and it's like apparently got a lot of Najee Marshall and Elise Johnson was in. Hayes just, I don't know. He went home. He only played 14 minutes with 3 total points on FanDuel. Right? McCollum did everything. So if he had McCollum, that was fun. But that front court, I don't know what happened there. But what is there to talk about? But I have no idea. Right? Even if I look through on Results DB, if I go to compare exposures, right? On DraftKings, yeah, see, I played on FanDuel, so the pricing is a little bit different. Like Landry Shamet wasn't really much of a play on FanDuel. Ayton was okay, right? Jordan Nwora, I guess, right? I mean, the Suns were just way too cheap on DraftKings, but they were reasonably priced on FanDuel. But I mean, what am I going to do? Just go through? I mean, LaMelo, the Hornets were getting blown out, then they came back. So what am I going to learn? I already looked through all this. That's why I'm answering questions in the YouTube chat for now. Peter Ortenberg. When using the late swap option on Lineup HQ, do we have the option to keep our build rules? And should we use that option? Yes, you do have that option. When you upload your entry CSV here, you're going to see in this area, like, can I do this? Let's see. Can I put in like, yes, some old one? It may give me an error. Yeah, it's going to give me an error because it's not the right slate. But you'll see a checkbox that's pre-checked that says relax build rules. It's pre-checked because a lot of people don't understand that once half your lineups are locked in or whatever, some of your build rules may end up being like, it can't even follow them, right? I want 4 unique players, no more than 1 from this team. I want to make sure to run back this thing with that thing. I don't want more than 10% of this guy. And I want, ownership to be less than 180, and it's going to blow up. It's going to say those lineups can't be made anymore, right? You already have half the players locked into your lineups. So it's like the lineup builder, it's like, oh, you got 100 lineups. Based on your build rules, I can only make like 16 of them, right? So when that relaxed build rules is checked, that means it kind of ignores most of your build rules. So once it ignores most of your build, then it's just kind of filling in based on like projection. With the checkbox enabled, it will at least be able to give you the late swap of all of your lineups, right? So if you uncheck relaxed build rules, then it'll adhere to all of your build rules. Now you just have to understand that when you do late swap, when it uses all your build rules, you may not get all of your lineups. So you may have to relax some of them yourself, one by one. You may have to go through and go, well, is the salary floor too high? If you're like, oh, it has to spend $49.9. It's like, well, like half the player pool has already started. So maybe some of these swaps, it ends up with a lineup that's $49.5 or $49.3 or $49.7. But you have it in $49.9. So that's why you're only getting 16 out of your 100 lineups. So now you set the salary floor to $49,000, and now you're getting 54 of your 100 lineups. Okay. And then maybe you go in and you're like, okay, maybe unique players 4. That may be a little too harsh for the fact that, half of my players are already locked in. So set that down to 3. And then see, maybe now you're getting 78 of your lineup. Oh, maybe set it down to 2. Maybe only having 10% of this guy is causing problems. And you're like, okay, I don't mind 25%. And now it's able to late swap all of your 100 lineups. So based on what you want to do, that's what I do. If anytime that I'm looking to just like jam something, that's when I start relax. That's when I use the checkbox. It's 5 minutes before a game locks. Some guy just got ruled out, and it makes like some $3,800 player like plus 12 salary adjusted value, and I want him into as many lineups as I can. And I only got 4 minutes to do it. that's when I leave the relaxed build rules checked, and I'm just like, give me as much of this guy and fill out the rest of the lineups with however the projection lands. I want the highest projected lineups now. And then I just go through that, let it build, export that, upload it. And, within, 4 minutes, you could do that. Right. But typically I uncheck that checkbox, and I will manually relax some of the build rules if I'm having problems generating lineups. Daniel Hutchins says, to your poker point, the difference between a good player and a great player is much smaller than the difference between a good player and a bad player. That's correct. Right. In DFS, the top level players that play DFS, the difference between, if I go through like Results TV, for instance, I study some of the Chipotle Addict, JBC, Kobe for MVP, Royal Pain, Chip My Money, Brick 75, Cheese is Good, DeCalt's, Nerdy Tenor, Oxen Duck, Petty Theft, RBX, Whistles, bro. Like the difference between me and and everyone that I'm listing here is minimal, right? In basketball, I think like Petty Theft is very good. I think Oxen Duck, I'm trying to figure out what the hell he does, is good. Kobe for MVP in basketball, or Mazwa also on like FanDuel, very good at basketball. Right? There's some that are better at baseball. There's some that are better at football, like Chipotle Addict and Papa Gates, great at NFL. Right? But the difference between them and everyone else on this list is not that much different. Maybe 5%, like a 5% difference between like me in basketball. The difference between me and Petty Theft is probably 5%, which at the high end is a lot, which could equate to a lot more money, right? I'm profitable, but he'll get an extra bink, an extra two. Obviously, we're playing different volumes, and he plays like all the high stakes stuff also, right? It's in comparison. But as far as like from a skill perspective, like the difference between all these players is fairly marginal. But the difference between like if I'm 5% worse than Petty Theft, how would a bad player? I may be 40% better than that player. Right. So that the gap between the bad players and the average players is wide. And the difference between the average players and the good players is pretty decent. But the difference between the good players and the great players, not as much. There's not that much difference. We take cash games, for example, not just GPPs. Like me going on NBA on FanDuel and me playing against like McLovin or something, or Aardvark or whoever's there, or if I'm playing whoever's in the cast, but normal sharp players. Our lineups are essentially usually 2v2s. And the projection difference is like a point at most. It came down to, I had this guy for one more minute than that guy. Like that type of, it's really, or a construction thing. Well, I played Durant and Miles Bridges, and someone played Michael Bridges and Giannis, and that was the 2v2, and I lost. Like that type of thing. But like everything else is the same. All 7 other players are the same in my lineup. So the difference what were we competing for? Like what are the chances in a VIG-free environment? Even at best, it's a 51-49, 52-48, right? Maybe my lineup was slightly better than his lineup. Maybe his lineup was slightly better, maybe slightly 52-48, maybe something like that. But against the lineup that has, I saw Isaiah Jackson, and a lineup that probably projected 25 points lower than my lineup. Like I'm a 4-1 favorite, right? Like I'm an 80-20 favorite in that spot. So like that's the difference between a bad player and a good player, right? An average player may have a lineup that's like 4 points projected, maybe 4 or 5 points projected lower than mine for like something like NBA. That's still that's 60-40, right? What's the edge there? And in like a 4-point projection difference, 57-43, 60, probably something like 60-40, probably 58-42. which will cover the rate, because obviously 55-45 would be the break-even point. So the difference between a good player and an average player is about that. But the bad players, I mean, you could be 75-25 over, a 3-to-1 favorite over the bad players. So can you find the bad players, right? And obviously, the better you are, you can find the average players also. How many average players can I find? Stuff like that. So the key point is that, getting from average to good is worth a lot more than getting from good to great. Now, as the ecosystem matures and players from the bad level drop off and the players that are average start getting better, now the profitability for the good players starts going down because you could find less and less average or bad players. But that's how the ecosystem works. Right? I talk extensively about the ecosystem in chapter 2, right? Talk about the skill gap right here, the skill gap, the rake, right? That's in the game objectives chapter of the course. It's an hour and 30-minute chapter. So you go to theoryofdfs.com. I talk about this is how professionals think about playing DFS. It's a market. You have to. That's why so many top DFS players come from poker, come from finance, come from some type of game, money market type of background, computer programming. Like very analytical, thinking in terms of not that this is a sports game, but this is more of it's like in poker. A lot of people think poker is a game of cards played with money, when in fact it's a game of money that plays with cards. Really, money is what the game is. Dana Hutchins says, I highly doubt there's a player alive who has an edge versus Blender and cash, for instance, because the rake dominates. Yeah, an edge past the rake. That's the key. Like, no, I think there are better cash players than me in soccer. Like Saramek's great, Redcoat's great, right? We have PSU fans and Fear My Turtle here at RotoGrinders, great cash players, great, single entry, small field GP play, they're great. But compared to the rate, like none of us, even if you want to say that Saramek is better than me, he's not better than me to beat the rake also, right? He's not more than a 55-45 favorite over me if there is an edge. And I don't think, and if he doesn't even have an edge over me, no one possibly can. That could also beat the rake, right? Because you always have to take that into context. And that's the reason why in like the soccer cash lobby, I block, I don't play Pew and Saramek and all those, and they're in the head-to-head lobby. And that some of the rake at the higher level is like 7%, but I don't think any of us are more than 7% edge over each other. So in the long run, Draftkings makes the money, right? We end up going 53-47 in some direction. And like I'm down X amount of money and the other person's down just this amount of money. So we're both down, right? So is there a point in playing? No, there isn't. I'm trying to find the players that I'm more than a 55-45 edge over. And once you get to a good enough level, once you get to some threshold like that, there's no player that above you that's great enough that could beat you over the rake. So that's your goal, right? To get to that level, right? And then it just comes down to finding as many average and bad players you can. Let's see. Ryan Johnson says, I feel Yahoo is full of bad players. I've won 12 consecutive 50-50 games. Okay, that doesn't mean you're good. You're 12 is nothing. To come back, you've won 64 in a row, then well, I mean, I don't know if that'll ever happen. Depends on the stakes levels on Yahoo. And also depending who you're playing against. Ryan Johnson says, and Blender is correct, is me and the same 8 or 9 other players every day, and I will feel confident I will beat them. I don't know about that. If you're playing against the same people over and over again, they're not bad players, right? So here's the thing when it comes to judging your results, okay? if you're playing against the same people over and over again for long periods of time, it's not like they're bad players. It's not, these aren't like people that, oh, I got $17 million and I like donating to the lobby. Like, no, that these are profitable players. Like I said yesterday about the 150 maxers, you're rarely going to find people that enter 150 lineups into a contest for an extended amount of time and not be sharp players. Because anyone that does that for a significant amount of period and is not good will go broke pretty quickly, like very quickly. So if you see it's like going through on results DB, and I go through like, oh, let me take a look at the Colts. Like the Colts have been playing 150 lineups for years. The chances of him being a bad player are very, very low, right? Rick 75, not a bad player, right? So most people that put in 150 lineups are not bad players, right? Especially if you've seen them for an extended amount of time. Very similarly to even the cash lobby. If you see someone posting head-to-heads and you've been seeing them posting head-to-heads for years, they're profitable cash players. Okay. Use Occam's razor as a guide. If you see someone posting $109, $215, $1,000 head-to-heads for 4 years, most likely whatever lineup if you look at their lineup and you're like, well, their lineup has 6 players different than my lineup, most likely you're wrong. Most likely. Assuming that they didn't screw up or something, a bad CSV upload or something. But most likely, if you're playing against the same 8 or 9 people and you look at their lineups and your lineup is significantly different than their lineups, it's more likely that you're wrong and getting lucky if you're winning against them than they're bad. It's more likely. Not saying that it's true, but it's more likely. That's the main reason why going through results DB and going like, what did sharp players do? What did 150 maxers do? What did their lineups look like? Were your lineups for the contest that you're playing reasonably enough similar to theirs? Reasonably enough. Right? If you played some guy at 2% ownership and you're like, I played him in every lineup, and you look through and like no one has him, it's most likely it's not you. No matter if that player could have put up 700 points, and it doesn't matter what the results are. The fact that you had him and like no one else in the world that is a profitable player had him, most likely it's you that were wrong, and you got lucky. Which that's what DFS is. It's a management of luck. So that's the purpose of going through and studying sharp players. That's how I learned how to play soccer, right? My first year of playing soccer DFS. That was the same people. I mean, Saramac and Redcoat and Old T and Pew. I would play, I would build a lineup, and I would have 4 people different than they had. I go, why did they play this guy? Why did they play that thing? Why did they pay down here? So I would see the same. It's like, oh, they all played this person. I didn't even think about them. I go, oh, because of X, Y, and Z, and then you learn, right? Right. Instead of just like, well, it doesn't matter if I beat them on this given slate. I want to be profitable long term, not for 3 slates. Oh, I beat them for 3 slates. Yeah, because even my bad lineup back then, they were still made at most 65-35 against me, right? And I look back at my results from head-to-heads or something back in 2015 and 2016. I was still a profitable player, but it was only like a 2% ROI. And then I got better. And then I brought it up to a 10 to 15% ROI. And then I got limited from the low stakes, and then it comes back to like 4 or 5%. But studying sharp players, don't I know better, but all the sharp players did this. Most likely, if you think just Occam's razor, most likely you're the one that's wrong, not 20 other players in the lobby. Okay, so we went over some stuff. This wasn't, it wasn't NBA related, but this is the type of stuff we talk about in the Blenders Game Theory channel in the Discord. Right? On the private coaching calls that I do. We don't even record them. So people are free to open up. People open up much more when they know this ain't going to be posted anywhere, right? No one's recording anything. You could talk, honestly and transparently. I do normally. I don't mind recording the calls, but there's some people that play that don't want to give out stuff, right? They don't want to be in the public sphere, right? They don't want to feel embarrassed if they're a losing player, and also the winning players that may have found some edges that other people haven't. Maybe want to discuss it with me and not have it broadcast throughout everywhere. So whatever stays in the Zoom, whatever is in the Zoom, it stays in the Zoom, just like Las Vegas. So join that. We got at 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock tomorrow, right? Because like we have like a lock tomorrow that is like 7, and then like most of the games are over by 8. So like by 8 o'clock, you don't have to worry that much about late swap. So we'll do that private coaching call tomorrow. The link will be posted in the Discord. So join that. Join RotoGrinders Premium. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. We got tons of spoilers. If MLB comes back, we got MLB too, right? USFL. I don't know. Are we going to be doing projections for that? I don't know. I'll find out. Because the spring football, why not? We got golf. We got NASCAR, MMA, college. We got March Madness, right? Is it March Madness? Is NCAA coming up? Right? They should have decent tournaments for that, and we got that also. So join RotoGrinders. I've been here. I've been here. I've been hosting, for like 2.5 years or something like that. I was a RotoGrinder subscriber since 2016. I eat my own dog food, so it's like I'm not selling you on something that like I don't use. No, I use Results DB. I use Lineup HQ. I use our projections. I use everything on the site. So it's not like, oh, I have this proprietary stuff and then I'm just trying to pitch you on other thing. No, this is literally what I use. Okay, so join RotoGrinders, join the Discord, hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Thummy thumbs, give me those thummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Got Grinders live later today. It's a big 12-game slate with God knows how many people on the injury report. You're going to have to tune in to find out, right? So the Dean and the crew will take care of you then. Then for premium members, we got crunch time. So 45 minutes, the last 45 minutes before lock, we got Meansy, we got Roth. They, this guy's out, this guy's in, this guy's whatever. Starting lineup changes, you'll know right on the spot what to do. So until tomorrow, I'll see you answering your DFS strategy questions as always on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.